Welcome to Kruk and Kuip Extra Innings, as today the Niners beat the Titans 23-22. And now you can follow on Twitter on the Kruk and Kuip fan page and join the Kruk and Kuip group on Facebook. Today was a very good. Let's get started off with some off-season news for the Giants, as this week was group on Facebook. As today started this last week was the MLB winter meetings. So this was a very interesting winter meetings, this hot stove, and there was a lot of top free agents that weren't signed, surprisingly. And some ideas maybe the Giants should consider here as we are getting further into the hot stove and closer to spring training. Maybe to to purge payroll and stuff. Might be to try to move Mac Williamson, as Mac Williamson is looking like he is going to be a bust for the Giants and is falling in the depth chart for next year's spring training. So it might be time to try to move Mac Williamson to another franchise and maybe catches on somewhere else. But the big thing was in this winter meetings is that none of the really big money free agents were signed. JD Martinez is still available. Mike Moustakas is still available. And this is something that's probably got effects of the current CBA. A lot of GMs are crunching numbers and trying to keep teams below the CBT, as they don't want to forfeit draft picks or pay the harsher penalties that come with being above the CBT. So a lot of these free agents may have to drop their price, so to say. Most of the signings were relief pitchers. Mostly it was bullpen trades and cheaper free agents that were signed. Not a lot of big names were signed and still available. We also had the Rule 5 draft this week. The St. Louis Cardinals signed former Astros slider specialist Luke Gregerson to a 2-year, $11 million contract. And he could benefit from pitching at Busch Stadium. That was not a bad signing there. Then we have a few trades to announce. Ian Kinsler was traded to the LA Angels from the Detroit Tigers for 2 prospects. And that certainly helps things for Detroit and certainly helps things for the Angels' infield situation. And Kinsler certainly has some pop. The Tigers received Troy Montgomery, a right-handed pitcher, and Wilkie Hernandez. So this was a good fix, as the Angels are trying to upgrade their infield. And then Anthony Swarzak signed with the New York Mets. Juan Nicasio signed with the Seattle Mariners. Astros signed Joe Smith. Brandon Kinsler re-ups with the Washington Nationals. And then Stephen Piscotty was traded to the Oakland A's for a couple of A's prospects. And what Oakland got back for Piscotty was Yairo Munoz and Max Schrock. Then also the Cardinals were not done there. They made another trade for Marlins outfielder Marcell Ozuna, which is not a bad consolation prize after missing out on the Giancarlo Stanton sweepstakes. And for Ozuna, the Marlins got back for Ozuna. Come on, load. Okay, Sandy Alcantara, Magneuris Sierra, Zach Guillen, and Daniel Castano. So 4 prospects which are going to help the Miami Marlins in their rebuild effort. And on top of that, Miami might not be done trading either, as Christian Yelich is now on the trading block for Miami. And the Giants made a pick in the Rule 5 draft. They selected Julian Fernandez. He was in the Rockies organization and is a flamethrower who can throw over 102 miles per hour. And they have to keep him on the 25-man roster if they want to keep him. But he's never been anything above low A baseball. But he's had severe control issues. But maybe he could be a Kurt Young project this year. This would have been a good one if Dave Righetti was still around for the Giants. And then they also signed Eduardo Rivera, another flamethrower in the lower levels of the Yankees organization, and Wander Franco, a third baseman. And he was in high single A with slashing .279 with 4 home runs. So maybe he's maybe a bench in the bench role for the Giants one day. So we shall see what happens with that. Then on top of that, the Angel Fernando Rodney signs with the Minnesota Twins, and former flamethrower Hector Rondon goes to the Astros. Rodney could be next year's closer for the Minnesota Twins and could be pitching a lot better at Minnesota than he did in Arizona, as Target Field's a bit more pitcher friendly than Chase Field. Then the Padres acquired Freddie Galvis from the Phillies for Enio de los Santos. Galvis's trade will certainly make Youngurvis Solarte a lot expendable. And I think for a low prospect, maybe not a big prospect, but I think Solarte could be the stopgap option at third base for the Giants if they were to trade, and wouldn't cost them too much in prospects. As the Padres made another trade to bring Chase Headley. Chase Headley and Brian Mitchell to San Diego for Jabari Blash, which was hit or miss for the Padres last year. And they probably made this move to probably re-sign Todd Frazier as he's still available in free agency. And the Phillies got a power bat in Carlos Santana, former Indian player, to a 3-year, $60 million contract with the fourth year for $17.8 million. And then Rhys Hoskins will probably go to the outfield, and Aaron Alter or Nick Williams to the bench. Alter had a problem staying healthy, so that was a good move there. And we have a trade to announce for the Giants this week. Matt Moore was traded to the Texas Rangers on Friday for 2 prospects, Sam Wolf and Israel Cruz. And this was more of a move to clear salary. And it could be either 2 things. 1, to just slash payroll, or 2, to go after Jay Bruce, as Jay Bruce may be rumored to come to the Giants. I don't know if Bruce is going to be the best answer for the Giants defensively speaking. But yeah, he can hit dingers. That is the pros. And he hits pretty well AT&T Park, which is good. And it won't cripple their payroll too badly. But he can be streaky at bat. He could be another Brandon Belt, I think. And he's not the best defensive player. But they'd be right up against the CBT again if they were to sign him. I think they just sit on I really think they might just end up sitting on that extra money for next year. So there could be some interesting things there. And then we had the salary dump of all salary dumps yesterday between the Braves and the LA Dodgers. As Matt Kemp goes to the Dodgers. For Adrian Gonzalez, Brandon McCarthy, Scott Kashmir, and Charlie Culberson. So dead weight for dead weight. And maybe Kashmir and McCarthy could go into the Braves rotation next year. And the Braves designated Gonzalez for assignment. And it's highly unlikely that Matt Kemp will play for the Dodgers. He'll either be traded or released. This was more of a move to get the Dodgers below the CBT and to get Atlanta closer to below the CBT also. So this makes both players ready for next year's possible free agency class. And this could have long-term effects towards next year's CBA, for the next CBA. as I certainly think a salary cap could be into play for the next CBA coming up. But I think the players' union are going to want more revenue stream, more revenue split next year. And certainly they might want a salary cap floor to force players to force teams to spend some money on talent. But I think they're going to try to make the players concede for a salary cap on the next CBA. And I think that the chances are more likely than not we could see a strike or a lockout on the next CBA. I certainly think they could lock out the players if they don't get a salary cap on the next CBA. So that's going to get really interesting. As in terms of that, you might see more of these salary dump type trades in the coming years. But I do think we are heading for a salary cap era of baseball. And with these free agents, their prices are going to have to drop. So I don't think Darvish is going to get what he wants. Certainly, JD Martinez is not going to get what he wants in price. And certainly, Mike Moustakas' price just took a big hit after Kozar got signed. So that might force Moustakas to go back to the Royals or take a shorter term contract or take less money. And I don't think that Harper is going to get paid what he really wants. So I think this is really going to be bad for, say, Scott Boras. And these luxury tax limits are going to cause more of these salary dumps. And maybe instead of $400 million, maybe Bryce Harper might get $300 million, maybe somewhere closer to $250 million when push comes to shove in next year's free agencies. Jake Arrieta, who wants a $200 million contract, he can kiss that goodbye. I think he might get something closer to $150 million. But these big paydays are certainly going to suffer with the new CBA. But now the Giants have about $24 million, $23 million to spend in free agency. And I think maybe they sign a couple one-year contracts or they might just go ahead and sit on it. It may not hurt to just sit on the money for next year and go after next year's free agency class. We shall see what happens with that. Now on to today's 49ers game as they won 23-22. No, 25-23, forgive me. Niners won 25-23 today. And this was certainly a good game for another good outing out of Jimmy Garoppolo. 31 for 43, 381 yards passing. And if there's something certainly the 49ers need to do this offseason, first item of business is to re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo long term. Carlos Hyde was non-existent. The running game was non-existent today. Marquise Goodwin, 114 receiving yards, 10 receptions. Another good game out of Kendrick Bourne. 4 receptions for 85 yards, excuse me. The tight ends were good today. 63 yards from Selleck, 52 receiving yards from Kittle. And Robbie Gould today, 6 for 6. And he started his barrage of field goals in the first quarter with a 38-yarder. Then another one in the first quarter with a 48-yarder. Then Tennessee gets one in the second quarter. Ryan Suckup with a 40-yarder. Garrett Selleck gets a 5-yard reception pass from Jimmy Garoppolo. Then Gould gets a 28-yarder after that to make it 16-3. And then Delaney Walker, and then the Tennessee responds with a Delaney Walker touchdown to make it 16-10. Then in the third quarter, Ryan Suckup with a 31-yarder to make it 16-13. Then they take the lead with a Rashard Matthews touchdown. Then Robbie Gould comes back with a 50-yarder, a 48-yarder. Ryan Suckup with a 50-yarder, and then at the end of the game, Robbie Gould ices it with a 45-yarder to win the game. And then penalties were bad again for the 49ers today, as they were penalized 7 times for 70 yards. And they certainly got penalized at the worst possible times today. But now go to 4-10 and play the Jacksonville Jaguars next week. Give me a second. Now let's wrap around with the other NFL scores for this week. Thursday night, the Broncos beat the Colts 25-13. The Lions beat the Bears 20-10. Kansas City beats the LA Chargers 30-13 and are now in sole possession of first place at 8-6. And the LA Rams embarrassed the Seattle Sea Chickens today 42-7 and could be eliminated from the playoffs as early as tomorrow. In their worst home loss since 1997, the Patriots beat the Steelers 27-24. The Bills beat the Dolphins 24-16. The Panthers beat the Packers 31-24 in Aaron Rodgers' return. And certainly Rodgers may not be playing next week as they could be eliminated from playoff contention tomorrow if Atlanta wins. So which means there'll probably be a lot more Brent Hundley for the rest of the season. Baltimore beats Cleveland 27-10. Jacksonville destroys Houston 45-7 as Jacksonville clinches their first playoff berth since 2007. So congrats to Jacksonville and Doug Marrone. Doug Marrone certainly has to be in consideration this year for Coach of the Year. Minnesota beats Cincinnati 34-7 as the Vikings win the NFC North. And also news out of Cincinnati is that the Bengals, is that Marvin Lewis will not return to the Bengals next year. And for Carolina, Jerry Richardson's going to put the team for sale after this season. Could be worth $3 to $4 billion to a new owner. The Saints beat the Jets 31-19. The Eagles beat the Giants without Carson Wentz 34-29 as Nick Foles had a good day today. Washington beats Arizona 20-15. And now on to the NFL standings. Today, New England 11-3 wins the East, and Buffalo I think is now in the wild card after the loss to Tennessee today. So if the season were to end, I think Buffalo would be in the playoffs. Pittsburgh wins the AFC North today 11-3. And Baltimore safe in now the first wild card at 8-6. And Cleveland two away from 0-16. Jacksonville clinches a playoff berth. Kansas City now has a 1-game lead over the LA Chargers at 8-6. Philadelphia won the division. And it could be a winner-take-all game next week between the Saints and the Falcons for the NFC South up for grabs. And the LA Rams can win the NFC West next week. And this will be the first time since, I think, like 2002, 2003, since the Rams have been in the playoffs. So the Rams are 1 win away from them making the playoffs. You guys, thanks for tuning in. I will be moving this channel to its own channel next year. So next year, once I do get the new channel up, I will encourage you guys to hit the subscribe button. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good week. I'll be back next Sunday. Hope you'll be feeling a bit better. Goodbye.